It's funny because even nowadays, obviously, we are changing to a degree, at least situationally. When I'm walking down the street and I see someone else walking towards me, I'm like, okay.
Something.
Are they wearing a mask?
Yeah.
Should I put my mask on? Am I going to, like, how much do I have to move to get 6 feet away from this person? Does this person care or do I not care?
Do they care?
You know what I mean? And you end up walking by, but almost slamming into each other's shoulders.
Exactly.
I'm like, wow, we were probably both thinking the same thing.
Exactly.
But the real response was just aggression. You know what I mean?
Right.
Welcome to AWL Podcast. I'm your host, Jonathan Wiseman, and this is episode 7. Today I'm speaking to a longtime friend of mine, Nsuani. Nsuani, do you want to take a moment and just introduce yourself to everyone?
Thanks for having me, John. As my man said, Nsuani Baffoe. We've probably known each other now 10 years.
Longer than that, buddy.
2009. Yeah, definitely someone that I feel has the same type of DNA as me. But I've been in the fitness industry.
That'd be good too.
Been in the fitness industry for about 12 years now, as a coach, but more as a manager, people relationship developer, and business person. So John and I have had many great conversations.
Awesome. And yeah, I mean, one of the things I definitely respect about you a lot is your management skill, right? I mean, you definitely have a way with people and a good way of bringing teams together, bringing people together, connecting them, and also getting them to work with each other, which is not easy. And I think in any business, that is probably one of the hardest things to do consistently, especially in, the gym business, the fitness business, because it's a people business. You're working with people 24/7, and you're also managing people 24/7. And with that comes emotions, stress, ups and downs, everyone's life challenges, and you really have to be able to ebb and flow with that because those people have to be on 24/7, right? So yeah, I mean, that's definitely something I've always seen you excel at, and it's something that I feel I am also good at, but I would say that I definitely have a few things to learn from you. You know what I mean? And vice versa. I mean, that's the name of the game. You want to learn with the people that you're surrounding yourself with.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So tell me, what have you been doing to keep yourself busy over the last couple months, especially with lockdowns in Ontario and everything like that?
Yeah, well, first of all, I receive your words, positivity, appreciate that. Doing what everyone's doing, is surviving day to day on some days.
Yep.
Feeling really good and positive and motivated to, progress and invest in yourself for the future on some days. And other days just being angry, frustrated, and
Yeah, with everything going on.
Yeah, it's impossible not to, right? So
it's a joke, bro.
It's literally a spoof, literally. Right?
Everyone that I know that lives outside of Ontario and lives outside of Canada, when I talk to them about this stuff, because they ask me daily, how are you doing? Are you open yet? Where's your mental state at?
Right.
They all laugh. Not
how
at
ridiculous
me,
it
but
is.
at how badly managed Ontario and Toronto is, and I'm blown away because almost everywhere else they're implementing rapid testing and checks and balances to keep everything going. Not here.
Nope.
The laziest approach I've ever seen in my life.
No, or the smartest, depending how you look at it. But I mean, at the end of the day, I think it's important that you just take on every emotion that you're in at the time and not try to fight it out.
Yeah.
Because then you're just wasting energy.
Yeah.
And that's easier said than done.
Yeah.
But at the first part of COVID, it was like, okay, do something with your time. Don't complain.
That got tired.
That got
so boring quick. Everyone's like, all right, I have all the time in the world.
Right.
I'm going to focus on me. I'm going to focus on my business. 6 months later, you're like,
exactly.
9 months later, you're like, okay, this is not good.
Yeah,
A year later, you're like,
exactly. So that was that part, and we that got us through. And then there's a little bit of opening up, and that was the hustle part of it. Like, okay, we have the summer that lasted not very long.
2 months.
But that gave us another type of energy. So that was a dominant energy.
Yeah.
Right now, the energy is very sad.
Bad.
It's sad.
Yeah.
So if I accepted the other two phases and got through them, I have to deal with this too.
For sure. I mean,
right?
there's no other option, right?
No other option, man.
There's really like a spectrum of how you can handle this.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm unfortunately seeing more and more people fall off the ledge now.
Oh, of course.
And
of course.
Even people that I would never think would. And,
of course.
One thing a lot of people don't know is the stress that I've been under over the last year now, with having two facilities
right.
and having to keep them both afloat. And doing so with very little support from landlords as well as the government. Like
Right.
my beaches location is fairly new, opened it late 2019, so its tax year end is 2020, which means it's not eligible for any funding, no loans, nothing, right?
Right.
So that's had to come out of my pocket, right? My pockets are only so deep,
Right.
right?
Right.
So that has been extremely stressful. And unfortunately, we've come to like the position now where we are going to close that location.
Oh man, sorry.
Yeah, and it's okay, man. Like I've gone through the emotions, the ups and downs of that already.
So you're clear.
I'm clear,
Yeah,
and my mind is okay with it. It's not okay with what the government has done.
Right.
It's okay with what I've had to decide to do.
Right, of course.
Because I'd rather consolidate and protect.
Well, that's why you're going to be okay, and that's
sure,
why
yeah.
a lot of our attention right now to this whole thing is it's not to you. Like we check in. I think we've probably spoken once a month for the last 10, 11 years, right? And I know when I'm talking to you, you're talking to me. Whether it's a 2-minute conversation or longer, at the end of that, he's okay, I'm okay.
For sure.
It's as you start to go down the scale of just differences. I won't even put a value to it because we're fucked in other ways. By the way, can I swear?
Yeah.
Okay, so we're fucked in other ways. In this area, we're solid, right?
Yeah.
But other people, just the touch points, and you see that it's if they go too low, whatever the future holds, they're not thinking consolidation,
sure.
cut off what's not
They're
growing,
breaking, yeah.
check my ego. If you go too low, then it's hard to fucking get back out of that.
Yeah.
This is like a gut punch. It's not a knockout yet, right?
And the thing is if I didn't do this, it would be
You'd be a
going too
knockout.
low,
Exactly.
Right? So doing this allows me to consolidate and protect, right? And protect the downtown location,
100%.
which is, the breadwinner of the business.
And then that's another thing too. I hear everyone's like leaving downtown and people are selling their homes. And if you were close to leaving downtown anyway, like you were going to leave in the next 3 to 5 years, for sure, bounce now, right? Especially if you can get a good return on your property. But there's some downtown people who are leaving. Yeah. And they need to be downtown because they won't do well.
Yeah. And I have, we've been able to retain the majority of our clients very, very luckily. And it's partly because we've got a good community, a good culture, good coaches, but also good contracts.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they're all ready to come back.
Right.
They've been screaming for it, So I'm not worried about the downtown location. I'm excited for it to reopen. But with that being said, it sucks that the beaches location never got off of its feet. 4 months open, lockdown, right? Yeah. But it's okay. Yeah. I'm able to sell the equipment. I was able to find a buyer to take everything.
Oh, nice.
So you have
good stuff.
I got my money back and then some to a certain degree. Obviously there's been time and money invested in keeping it open during the lockdown, but my initial investment's back in my pocket. Okay. So that is obviously one of the big stress reliefs for me because then I can reinvest that. Yeah. And one of the things I want to do is get into property management or at least start to invest in properties and rent them out and things like that. So just trying to diversify as much as I can, especially knowing the government has full control over.
That's it. That's the part that when this is all said and done, I hope that we just fully understand that we have no control.
That's gonna change, man.
Yeah,
that's messed up.
It will never change.
It's gotta.
Why?
This is so bad, and there are ways you can take power back.
Oh, there's many ways you can take power back.
Yeah.
But a reason why I don't think it's gonna change, or it's gonna change slowly. I should say that. Let me not say never gonna change. Is that power, it's within. We have to look at us, and we are much easier to yell at external forces than internal.
For sure.
And that's the part that takes a while, right?
Yeah. One of the ways I'm working on taking my power back is by not putting my money or my time into the government's backed currency.
That's a good way of doing it.
Yeah.
That's a really good way.
That way they don't control me.
Right.
And all my funds are now digital.
And it's not even like an aggressive thing. It's just I'm choosing to do something different.
I'm investing.
Exactly. And I think that's the mentality everyone should do. Don't make it anger goes only so far. Adversarial relationships only go so far.
Yeah.
The government's running a business, a very good business. Choose not to do business with them in areas where you can.
Exactly.
That's the way that we all should come out of that.
Yeah.
Whether it's healthcare, stay out of their centers.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. It's
money.
That's a bit easier said than done, but I think being able to diversify my money in ways that they have no control over, and will never have control over, is beautiful to me, and I'm happy that I've got that availability and that ability to do so. Right?
Yeah, it's good.
It protects my family's future and takes their hand out of my pocket too.
And just change your relationship with them altogether.
Yeah. Now I don't rely on them. Yeah. I'll rely on them as much as I pay taxes.
Yep.
That's it.
Yep.
but this is the world we live in. So tell me what's going on with you business-wise. What are some things you're working on lately?
Yeah, man. I started a company called RFI, Revitalizing Fitness Inc.
Yep.
And my whole approach there is just to look for areas of opportunity with business and fitness and see if there is an opportunity to improve.
Okay.
So our first and foremost is acquisition. I do think this is going to ride out.
Yep.
And when it does, people are going to need a place to go. And a lot of the areas that were affected by COVID are going to stay. So we have to be stronger with our people skills, and we have to be stronger with our how we relate to our trainers and the people who work together, because really it's going to be a community. So I found a couple locations that I really like, a couple parts of the city, and businesses that already had a lot of the things going well.
Yeah.
And we connected with them, we merged, I acquired them, and now we're running them together with the people in the community. So that's my number one focus. That takes a long time, as you know. All that goes into contracts and leases and just finding the right margin, especially when you're projecting from COVID.
Yeah.
It's nothing more than an educated guess, but one that you can kind of reverse engineer and look and say, well, if these things are in place, you should expect this type of opportunity. Not even a guarantee on the money, but just opportunity.
Yeah.
And then really managing the way the fitness professional has been managed before in the past.
Yeah.
Right? The fitness profession, especially training, especially class instructors, it's a gig economy. It's a gig economy like freelance, like acting, like music. There's just so many examples and history on how we can manage it better from other industries. But no one's really credited us as a gig economy or really looked to kind of see how can you improve it, right?
Yeah.
So that's a big part of RFI is the management of trainers, and not so much employee, because it's hard to be an employee, especially nowadays, because it's a set of rules.
Yeah.
And a lot of distrust happens, and for some people, yes, it's always going to be a good option, but I think more than ever, COVID taught a lot of people that they can depend on themselves a little more.
To a degree, for sure.
To a degree, for sure.
Yeah.
But the part that they're probably missing is the part that you're not going to get as someone else in your own.
Yeah.
It's the connections, talking to someone else in the business, having a general strategy, getting information. Hey, I'm about to try, this type of service in my fitness business. There's 5 other people who've done it or tried it. So it's the power of the network, right? So our management arm manages those 2 spaces really well.
Awesome.
And it connects now with our physical spaces when they're able to open again.
Yeah.
So that's been my number one focus, is just working with great owners, great contractors, so to say.
Yeah.
And just keeping the clients engaged the best you can.
Yeah. That all sounds amazing, and I'm excited to see what you're able to do, especially after this shit ends and you're really able to start sprinting forward.
Yeah.
Would you say that you believe after pandemic and lockdowns end, whenever that is, that you expect the in-person to blow up?
Good question. Before the last round, I was expecting that.
Yeah.
But I think there's going to be a very long-lasting effect on just how we view human connection.
Okay.
We're going to know we need it, but it's going to take a while before it settles into whatever it's going to be. And I don't know if it's happening to you right now. When I'm watching TV, I'll see people together in a room or something, and my mind's thinking, when was that? When was this? I'm thinking differently.
Yeah.
And that's happening on a level that I can't control. So
it's interesting because I almost see it differently, right?
Okay.
I guess my mind has obviously continued to change through this process. From at first, I was like, okay, I feel and understand the need right now, because we don't know what we're dealing with, to follow the rules as in depth as I possibly can. And I still do in it, but that's more so for other people's perspectives, right? But as this has gone on, I've come to realize just how important that connection is, and that face-to-face truly is. And for some people to not have that, it's so damaging.
Right. No, there's no debate there.
Yeah.
And what I'm saying is that knowing something and doing it sometimes involves things we don't control.
Yeah.
And I'm worried, not so I'm worried, but I'm keeping my eye on the fact that if I'm experiencing that, if I'm looking at a film and thinking, was that pre-COVID? I don't even think like this.
Yeah, it's true.
That's not the way I even care, but it's something's going on in the back of my subconscious. Yeah. So I think we're going to know that. I 100% support what you said. I just think the action of it is going to take some time. So I think everyone's going to need is somebody there for them.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think what's great about the future of the industry is I can be there for you in person.
Yeah.
I can be there for you through Zoom
Yeah.
or whatever channel you're using, and I can also just be a checkpoint for you.
Yeah.
So that's the part where that's going to skyrocket.
Yeah. It's funny because even nowadays, obviously, we are changing to a degree, at least situationally. When I'm walking down the street and I see someone else walking towards me, I'm like, okay,
Something.
are they wearing a mask?
Yeah.
Should I put
Should
my
I
mask
move?
on? Am I gonna like how much do I have to move
Right.
to get 6 feet away from this person? Does this person care or do I not
Do
care?
they care? Do I
You know
care?
what I mean? And you end up walking by, but almost slamming into each other's shoulders.
Exactly.
I'm like, wow, we were probably both thinking the same thing.
Exactly.
But the real response was just aggression.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And it happens like all the time. I'm like, that was weird.
That was very weird.
That was a
Yeah,
weird interaction.
Yeah.
Because like both of our minds are probably here, but our physical bodies are right here.
Right there.
When it should be.
And that's a lot of energy, right? If every interaction feels that way. Like I stopped 200 yards from your house and was like, give me the code to get in. Because I wanted to make sure that,
how am I doing this?
you're comfortable. I knew you're comfortable, but I think about my neighbors more.
Yeah.
And that's good from a certain point of view. But it's a lot of energy, man.
Yeah. And it's ridiculous because honestly, we know enough about the virus now to understand our levels of comfort,
Right.
how we want to protect ourselves, protect the people that we care about, and protect others.
Right.
And we should have enough of an ability to choose how we wish to live,
Okay.
so long as it's not putting other people in harm.
Yeah, but what example have you had of that anywhere else in our society? Through laws.
Pretty much this.
Our communication.
Yeah.
And even that gets screwed with sometimes, right?
For sure.
Yeah,
But,
yeah.
even my wife, who's a medical professional,
Right.
All my perspectives on this derive from her
Of course.
opinions because she's much more knowledgeable on this than I am. And she knows, as well as the people that she speaks to on a daily basis, they have a private physicians group on Facebook for the physicians in Toronto. This includes epidemiologists, frontline people,
So they get the raw.
they get all the
Conversation.
data as well.
Yep.
And people who are on the vaccine task force are included in this group. And they keep each other updated. And at this point, they all are aware that the reason why we are still in this mess has nothing to do with the virus now.
Right.
It has to do with the lack of funding over the last 10 to 15 years
Right.
gone into
100%.
the hospital system.
100%.
But with that being said, where have our tax dollars gone? Okay. Secondly, the real problem now is because there's a lack of bodies to man these beds, these ICU beds. What happens is if they get full with these COVID patients, then everyone else with elective surgeries and cancer and things like that, they get screwed over
100%.
too. So now that's the problem. At first, the problem was protecting the vulnerable
Right,
and long-term
right.
care homes. That didn't work.
Right.
And now almost everyone there in that sector is vaccinated.
Right.
And my wife thought once I was done, we'd be able to get back to normal, logically.
Right.
Then that didn't happen, and we got to the situation where now we've got to vaccinate the elderly and the vulnerable, which is in process, and we're making decent headway on that. But enough of those people and sectors are now vaccinated. We should be able to get back to normal, but now that can't happen because now we're running into another problem, which is the ICU beds, which is not our fault.
Yeah, it sounds like a clusterfuck.
That's nothing to do with the pandemic. That has to do with the lack of funding.
But I think that's the part what I'm saying. Like we have to spend I understand
Yeah.
that data does prove the story, but I think we have to and it sounds ridiculous, but that's a thinking that we should have had 10 years ago.
100%.
And the only reason that we don't think that way is because we don't think internally. We
Yeah.
think externally.
Yeah.
I mean, really and truly, we seen all this coming.
Yeah.
We knew exactly.
It's just a matter of time.
It's just a matter of time. Like we knew how we were treating our elderly. We knew how we treat them just from a
I had
respect
no
point
idea.
of view.
I had no
Okay,
idea.
that's fair.
And
that's fair.
Once I learned, I was
that's
so
fair.
disgusted.
That's fair.
Because number one, I've never had to send my parents.
Right.
They didn't live long enough to.
Right,
do so,
right. That's very fair.
But
Yeah.
if I found out
Yeah.
my mom was staying at a long-term care home with bugs,
Oh, it's terrible.
laying in her own urine,
Right.
Bro,
And that's.
I would go joke her out of it.
But can you imagine if we you've seen cultures that really respect their elderly and wouldn't even put them in a home. They live them in a house with them. But let's just say imagine we were people that had held our ancestors and our elderly in high regard.
Yeah.
That would never happen.
Japanese culture for sure.
Japanese culture for
You know
sure,
what we
right?
should have done? We should have just sent everyone out on the iceberg into the water. We'd be fine now. Who does that? What culture is that? Like the Eskimos?
Somewhere in the north.
Somewhere in the cold.
Yeah, somewhere in the north for sure.
Yeah.
But I mean, but my point is, like, if we don't start thinking a little more strategically, someone's going to take advantage of these things, right?
Yeah.
And I think now this is a time period for us to say, okay, hopefully I'm getting screwed over here. I understand I'm getting screwed over here, right? Like,
Yeah.
I see.
Oh, we're being screwed over.
No, but now I'm not talking about you and I, man. You and I are just fine.
Yeah.
Right? And that's the thing, you and I have to be careful. We can talk to each other all day long, and we can talk with other people who get it.
Yeah.
But fuck, there's a lot of people who don't.
For sure.
And it's getting them along slowly so they don't completely lose it, right?
Yeah.
They're figuring out, like, okay, these guys don't have my best interest.
Mm-hmm.
So now we have to think about, the next election, because that's the way you still think. You still think that guy's going to save you. But you got to remember, hey, it didn't happen 4 years ago. Maybe that shifts our thinking a little bit. And maybe we think, okay, well, maybe my personal trainer kept telling me that the medical system is shit. Maybe I believe him now.
Yeah.
Because some of my
I
clients...
hope that happens. I hope people's minds open a bit and realize that the best interest that they thought the government had
is not there.
It's not there.
You've had it before.
Not
We're
even
speaking to a client.
to a degree.
You've had it when you're speaking to a client about something simple like micronutrients, and because they're more like the Western class, they're like thinking to you like you're thinking like it's witchcraft.
Vitamin D.
It's vitamin D, bro. Like,
What?
right? And
Are you trying to poison me?
Right?
Is this a Ponzi scheme? You know what I mean?
And usually those clients over time, as they gain the trust is gained, they start to move over slowly. But you remember those conversations are like, they have no excuse anymore.
Yeah.
And they had someone before that thought they were crazy.
And you know what's crazy? Obviously, having hundreds of clients.
Yeah.
So many of them in the beginning of this process were so scared and
yeah,
so pro-government
and
so believing everything that was
Are
on
you
the
sure I
news.
should eat my carbs at night? Are you sure?
But now they're so anti-government, so anti-news, and so almost to the point where it's almost a conspiracy level.
That's the overcorrection.
But I find that people are going to bounce between those two until they find
at the end of the day, they're looking to have whatever feeling they're going through validated.
For sure.
Yeah, and when they want comfort, it's the new variant's taken care of. We have a new strain. They feel better, and then when they don't, it's going to be like, I knew it was a hit. I knew it was a conspiracy, and I do the same thing myself. But now I'm just saying, you know what? What was I deficient in for me to believe that this person had my best interest?
Probably experience.
Experience is a big one.
Yeah, I think that's the case with me too, because I've never been in a situation where I've had my right to earn a living completely revoked.
Like completely. Sorry, it's not funny, but it's ridiculous.
It's funny. It is funny. And
shit.
In such a way with absolutely no
evidence,
discourse, no evidence, no proof, no reasoning.
Yeah.
And an absolute non-willingness to give me information.
Right.
So I'm like, why is this the way it is?
Right.
And it's just like, lockdown.
And I remember
good for you.
You went to you called your MP. You did all that.
I ended up speaking up. So I spoke to the MPs in the districts that my gyms are located in my home. And then I went a step further as I started to get put in touch with higher ups, to the point where I was speaking to, I almost got to Christine Elliott,
Mm-hmm.
But after speaking to a few people in her office and realizing how much of a waste of my time this is, because they were in agreement with me, but they're like, but it's not going to do anything.
It's not going to do anything.
They're like, they were saying without saying that there's a bigger picture here.
Yep.
It has nothing to do with protecting people.
Yep.
This is about positioning themselves for votes.
Yep.
This is about positioning themselves for where these higher ups want to move after they're done in their job roles.
Back into the public sector.
This is also about helping the big boys, because the big boys kick back.
Yep.
We don't kick back.
Yep.
They're like, but small businesses pay the majority of the taxes in the corporate world, and they go, yes and no. It's really hard to get full taxes from small business, especially when we know they're going to fail. But these big boys, they're not going anywhere, no matter what, pandemic or not.
Right.
And think about how much these large businesses have grown in the last year.
Yep. The reality is, John,
593 billion in profits, or revenue, right?
See, the reality of this is like those steps are important, and I think that's what I'm saying. I think everyone needs to go through them that believes in the system.
Yeah.
I'm African. Corruption, I've seen 3,000 ways from sunrise,
Yeah.
right? So to even have a picture of what's happening now surprise me, not even close.
Yeah.
This is what happens. I know in this part of the world doesn't happen so overtly, which is letting us know
they're better at it.
they usually know how to finesse it a little bit.
I'm amazed that I was so blind the first 30, 40 years of my life.
But it's okay, because now that means they're just going to pick up the steam. And if you want to see what it could be like, just take a dart and throw it at any map in Africa and read 10 years of history, read 20 years, read 30, right? Yeah. We do things to better position of large businesses, and large businesses ultimately employ most people,
and they run the world,
and then we also invest in them and make money. Like, we've also made money off Amazon and all big tech stocks as they were doing the back door on us.
Yep.
So it's, at the end of the day, like, until we address why we do those things, and that's the hardest part, they're just going to keep on facilitating. So there's so many gross abuse of power. There's so much gross abuse of public resources and jobs of position of service, that why would we ever trust these people? Yeah. We actually get surprised when they lose our trust. I get surprised when they're trusted. Yeah. But that's okay. That doesn't make me like angry, doesn't make me unmotivated. It means like, shit, I really should trust John. Mm-hmm. I should really trust the people I actually know and live with, because
the people that actually care enough. People that have a foot in the door.
And they're right here. Like, I can actually see John. I don't have to talk to 22 people to hopefully get through to Christine Elliott. What the fuck is that? Yeah. Why would I need to talk to that person? What are we going to talk about? Yeah. I had to talk to 9 people to get to you. I forgot the fucking question. Yeah. So let me connect with someone who I can talk through all my emotions with, go through all my different challenges with, and then maybe figure out how we all can make a buck together. So we're never going to win. Yeah. It's too lopsided, but we can get some shots in.
For sure.
And then in those shots, as much as it's easy to become just like them, you have to find ways to keep your foot somewhat on the ground. Yeah. And that's a balance too, right? Yeah. We all want to have a nice house. We all want to have things. Yeah. But then that's also could feed the beast and go the other way. So I think it's just a matter of like...
It's a back and forth.
It's a back and forth.
You have to be willing to play the game.
And you just don't get keep played. Your soul.
Don't get played. Yeah.
Exactly. Don't get played. And then every once in a while you stop and you're like, wow, I just got played. Yeah. Holy shit. I thought that girl loved me.
Yeah, I mean, to a degree, everyone will play you if you let them, right?
Something's gonna happen somewhere. It's wins and losses, right? Yeah. So I think it's a matter of just like, okay, this one's big. This one touched our pockets, and it's been crushing people's pockets for generations. For sure. But everyone got a piece. Of this one, right? Yeah. It crushed our freedom. That's the one that really like jerked us.
For sure.
Because our illusion of freedom was so grandiose that we hear about people, 300,000 people in refugee camps. You hear about people like getting like literally kicked out of their homes and people getting killed. And that didn't hit us. No. It just went whoop, boom, boom. Yeah, it's bad. Yeah. Put on Netflix. Right?
Yeah. It's so sad, man. Like,
it's sad, yeah. Oh, a new show, a new episode, right? Okay, so we heard it. We definitely heard it. We just didn't really connect. So as much as like, honestly, fuck Doug Ford, fuck John Tory, fuck all of them. As much as like, I have a lot of energy to say out the window, I gotta spend some time saying like, you weren't paying attention, you weren't really dealing with this shit.
It's kind of our fault to a degree, because we were so oblivious. We preferred ignorance as bliss over anything. Right?
And we're having fun at that time, and we're really enjoying that time period. So that's the part that I'm taking out of this for sure. That does give a lot of peace and clarity, and some days not. Yeah. But I mean, fuck. Those guys have it hard. Those guys have to live with themselves.
They're doing a good job.
They're doing a good job.
Both Doug and John Tory, guess what their net worths are?
I would say, Tory prior to this?
They're both the same, by the way, their net worth.
Well, Tory was a good firm, and he's part of the Tories. So, I mean, sure, his background's at least 8 figures, if not 100 million. Not him personally, but his family.
It's 8, but both of them are 8 figures.
8 figures, yeah. And you said, who's the other one?
Doug Ford.
Well, Doug Ford's from Rexdale. He's
50,
a hood.
50 mil each.
No, but you know that the Ford family were gangsters.
I also know that they own a huge printing
DuPont.
company.
Yeah, those guys were. I'm from Rexdale. Yeah, they're known in Rexdale. Remember Rob? Yeah. God bless his soul. Smoking crack, speaking patois. Yeah. That's my old neighborhood. Yeah. These guys were legit gangsters. They went to school with my mother-in-law.
Yeah.
Like, we know these people.
Yeah.
By the time they get to the premier level, they're all polished. They're
Yeah.
fucking hoods.
Yeah.
They're all family hoods. Don't kill me. Or, like, they'll admit that. They ain't worried about that shit. They know who they are. Doug Ford used to sponsor Tobago Eagles, my little cousin's football team.
Yeah.
He'd show up once a year hammered.
Yeah.
Right? Like, they're not good people. And the worst part about not being good people is that not being a good person started benefiting them. So they just,
Of course, they're just going to continue going.
they're flying on this shit, man. Right? They literally believe they're doing something that's good because they're so disconnected. I fucking feel sorry for those guys.
Yeah.
One day it's going to hit them.
It'd be nice to see.
I know.
I'd like to see a downfall at this point.
But you know what? We're gonna age, and yes, we'll have some nice things, and yes, we'll have some failures, and yes, we'll be successful. But you're gonna have good people.
Yeah.
Your son is gonna be wealthy without a dollar because of your network.
For sure.
And I know that because you can see that, right? And those are things that, if you get all of that, and you're worth $100 billion, that's good with me. But if all you have is $100 billion, and you are so disconnected from the beautiful parts of humanity, woe on you, man.
Yeah.
And it looks like when you see them, they look drained, man. Politicians don't look good.
I don't know, man. I feel like up until about 3 months ago, they were always coming with nice haircuts.
Do you think now they've changed it up or they're tired?
They've changed it up.
Trying
All of a
to
sudden,
appeal?
John Tory's hair is like out to here
Trying to appeal to I'm going through
because
it
they
too?
kept getting complaints.
Yeah.
So
I see
people
that.
kept saying, "Why do they always come with haircuts?
Clean
What's
as
going
hell."
on?" I thought that wasn't allowed.
Right.
And now they're coming with disheveled hair and things like that. So it's all a front, man.
It's all the front.
They're still living their quality. There's nothing.
No, John.
You know what I
there's
don't like?
John, it's not quality of life, man. I'm telling you, it's not quality.
Well, you know what I mean.
I know what you're saying.
Yeah.
They have some shit. Yeah.
They're getting everything we don't have. They're
They
accessing
have.
right now.
Well, they were just vacationing not too long ago, right?
Yeah, I mean, Doug Ford was in Florida, I think, and so was John Tory. I know they like to say that that's not true, but
Right.
it's true.
Yes, of course it's true.
You know.
Yeah.
Like, I know some things that I'm not allowed to say.
Right.
Because
And we
people-
all needed a beach. You're trying to tell me you had access to it and you didn't go? Please.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, like,
That-
do you know what the rules are with travel right now? Because I have no idea. Because if I can get out of here for a little bit, I'm
You can.
gonna.
You can.
Yeah.
You can.
Because I have a family place in Florida that I want to just.
I think you definitely should, my friend.
Yeah.
And then just the time of being away will be obviously great. And then even if they have the 2 weeks, that time to reacclimatize to this shit.
I'm not going anywhere. If I have to quarantine at home,
Right.
it's the same thing.
Exactly.
As
So I think it's fine. I think sometimes though, again, we're taking away our liberties, so we feel a certain way. And you know what? Public opinion and emotion is what just driving us. Because if I went away right now, I'm sure people would be upset.
Yeah.
But what's better, me cracking?
You still
breaking?
think people would be upset?
I think people might be upset they just can't go away themselves.
True. But a Canadian can go to the U.S. and get vaccinated day one
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
without having any ID.
I'm pretty
So
sure.
a client of mine is in Pennsylvania right now, and she just walked into a grocery store, walked to the back pharmacy, and sat down, and they popped the
Sounds like
Pfizer
Pennsylvania.
vaccine into her, and she pieced out.
Yeah.
And that's it. Like, it's as simple as that. So, like, there's a lot of benefits to going to the States right now. And of course, quality of life. I mean, you can do whatever you want there.
Right.
You know, so long as you're wearing your mask and social distancing, you're fine.
So let me ask you a question. Do you think people make decisions whether they go or not go because they read what the policy is, or they research it, or they just hear it and say, "Oh, I can't vacation," they get angry?
Well, I have a lot of my friends. I would
Right.
say the majority of them are in the States now.
Right.
From Canada.
Right.
In the last 3 months, they've pieced out.
Right.
And they've been there, and they haven't skipped a beat as far as being able to go out, meet with
Right,
people.
of course,
And they're all fine.
Yeah.
You know, and so I think if people are going to have a perspective about someone from Canada traveling, they should look at what everyone else has been doing,
Right.
and understand that what you're seeing is probably not reality, because most people are probably trying to get as much life in
Right.
as possible. They're just not saying it.
Right.
Like, look at us.
Right.
We're breaking the rules right now.
I didn't even read the rule book.
But I'm going to tell you,
Yeah.
no one's going to tell me how I'm going to live my life.
That's just not even. It's not. This I struggle to get what's in my brain out of my head because I agree with you. it doesn't even, I don't even care. My bigger concern coming over here was making sure I asked you how to enter your house. You're the rule maker.
Yeah,
You're the law
but
in this situation.
I also feel the same.
Right. So if
my
I offended you and maintained the law,
Yeah.
I'd be upset.
Yeah, but that
Right.
should be but I invited you here. So you should be fully aware that, like, you know, I've done enough of these now.
No. You're not getting what I'm saying. What I'm saying is we've given away too many of our codes and rules to our laws.
Yeah.
The only law that mattered was what you wanted. If you said to come in here, you have to turn around 3 times and walk in backwards, I would have did it.
Yeah.
That's the law. It's
Yeah.
your house.
Yeah.
I don't need a municipal law to govern your house.
For sure.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that's our problem. We're trying to ask these people who don't know us
Yeah.
to make rules for us.
Yeah.
Instead of actually thinking about what rules I need for myself and then what rules I need from somebody as I'm entering their house and having that dialogue. We're so far from that type of like
Yeah.
yeah.
Touch on that.
Yeah.
It's interesting because some of the biggest corporations and companies in the world now used to break the law.
100%.
Prohibition.
100%.
Some of the biggest whiskey makers, some of the biggest beer and wine
Slavery.
makers. Yeah, exactly. But
Lords of London,
Yeah.
they did all their insurance for the slave ships. And
Yeah,
they're
it's crazy.
still a big bank.
And with that being said, you know, I'm not outing anybody because I don't actually know anybody who's doing this.
Yep.
But how many of us in our industry do you think are doing things under the books right now or under the table? And
I think anybody
they
who
have to. Or they don't, you can't survive
I
without
think
them.
anybody who understands what their code is. Again, if your code is to follow the rules and you see that the rules are made on the protection of your safety and that makes sense to you, however you quantify or
Yeah.
qualify information, then you can't be wrong. If you feel the other way, you can't be wrong.
For sure.
And that's the part that I don't really...
The thing I disagree with
Okay.
is that is more so based off of your emotional opinion, not logical. Because the logical opinion of mine is derived from understanding the science
Right.
and doing my own research
Right.
and speaking to experts, coming up with my own conclusions and understanding what needs to be done to actually protect myself and other people.
But I think it's the both. I think I don't disagree with that, right? I think you'll see it though, right? When someone makes, in my opinion, when decisions are made more just on facts, void of emotion, they're rigid and there's no leeway.
Yeah.
And you can't really, it doesn't apply to case by case. You have to have some interpretation that usually isn't there.
Yeah.
When you go the other way, it's completely just early response with no action, which is too emotional, right? So I think, you know, I've been watching a lot of our peers and there's a lot of emotion, right? Like, what is this business doing to me and my livelihood, which I completely understand. But then, you know, that's the start of the emotion. There has to be an action after it. What can you do to make sure you're still servicing your people and getting your money in? Not everyone's been doing that, right?
No, for sure.
On the other side, there's other people that are just like, oh, I'm following the rules and I'm just going to shut everything down because that's what it says to the law. And then they're being let down by the fact that they can't get their relief on time or aid on time. Because if you're going to follow the rules should be paying me on time, right?
You know, speaking of which, so you know the $20,000 grants?
Mm-hmm.
So we have 3 businesses, all separate, and all of them have been impacted.
Mm-hmm.
So we applied
Good.
for each one of them.
As you should.
They changed the rules halfway through, meaning any corporation that applied
Yep.
should get the fund. However, they did change the rules halfway through.
Yep.
We already applied. A month passes, and all of a sudden, it's like only one person can get it.
From like one.
Even if you have 20 corporations, you can only get 1 grant. Okay.
Yeah.
They changed that on us midway through. We applied January 17th.
Yep.
We haven't gotten it yet.
No.
It's even though it says under review. I've called 100 times, and they just say backlog.
Yep.
And I'm like, okay, cool. So I have to do everything you guys tell me to do, but you do not have to be held to standard.
That would influence my decision based on the question that you asked, because now that's not fair.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
None of this is. If you ask me to do something and you say, look, if you just do this, I'll make sure you get your little chicken at the end of the day.
Yeah. $20,000 is nothing.
Fine,
Like,
right? You know what I'm saying? It's
that
little
comes and goes in
chicken.
2
Yeah,
weeks
that's why I said little chicken. But let's just say the little chicken came like it was supposed to come. I'm more inclined to say, okay, What's your next rule? Okay, you know what? I still think you're full of
At
shit.
least you're giving me something.
At least you're full of shit, but you're trying to like
You're trying to help a little bit.
Yeah, you're trying to make sure at least like I'm not hungry.
Yeah.
Right? But you're not doing that because you are so disconnected from human life and empathy that you just take it too far.
Yeah, it's been over 80 days I've been waiting.
You just take it too
It's supposed to
far.
be 10 business days.
Right. So then my whole thing is if you can't even break off that and make it easy for me to get fucked,
Yeah.
now you're starting to push me the other way.
Yeah.
So to me, that's obviously, and sorry, one thing with me is like I also like believe in respect for the law. So although I may make my interpretation of it, I signed up to those rules.
Mm-hmm.
So if I get caught by those rules, that's my fault.
For sure.
But I'm not gonna sit here and pretend like you're playing the game fair.
Yeah.
You're playing the game so viciously that you don't have any regard.
Yeah.
You don't know how to think about other people.
Yeah.
And then that ties into oh my God, that stuff I heard about in Syria probably is pretty bad.
Yeah.
That stuff I heard about in, Rwanda was probably pretty bad.
That's a whole other level.
That's just another
That's not
level.
even real government. That's just tyranny and
Tyranny.
evil. You know what I mean? It's just evil.
Okay, so our
profiteering.
guys wear suits and get haircuts. I get it.
Yeah.
But it's all the same shit.
It's warfare, just different type of
Just
ammo.
different types. So then, that's why I'm saying, like, if you're opening up just to be defiant or you're breaking laws for defiant, sure, but that energy it's not good energy.
Yeah.
And if you're locking up just to be, let me try my best to just put my head in the sand, that's bad energy too.
For sure.
We got to find the mid ground and then stand on it.
Yeah.
Stand on that shit, right?
Yeah.
Legally, if people were to bring you any type of charge, bylaw charge, it has to constitutionally hold up to...
Which it doesn't.
Which it doesn't.
Yeah.
No, that's not a one conversation. No one's going to go to court and be like, oh, you're right, you're out.
Well, my lawyer has come to the point now of frustrations where he's even suggested you should probably just open.
Right.
He said, and we will fight the fines
better to fight
in court.
No.
He said because he's like, I don't see them standing
Right.
when this is all over.
But what's the ticket to do that? There's a fee for that. It's court fees, right?
Not really. I mean, if it's just, what is it called, civil court?
Okay, it's time.
Yeah.
What basically I'm trying to say is, as long as we know what the cost is, you can choose to pay it.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm saying. That needs to be made by a very balanced. That decision needs to be made by a balanced brain.
Yeah.
Now I'm gonna do what I need to do to make a living. I understand what the repercussions are, and I understand if I'm in that repercussion, I have to have another strategy to make sure I get out of that repercussion.
Yeah.
And go.
Definitely.
And we don't need to ask anybody for that. We don't need to. Marching, I'm cool with. I don't necessarily wouldn't march, but to me, when we're asking these people to hear us versus just doing the actions, that's when I get a little bit jaded.
Yeah.
Like, let's do not march. Let's all sit down and figure out how to make sure we're legally protected when we open up.
I agree. Yeah.
Go.
Yeah.
Then we'll go march if there's time left.
Yeah.
But what am I screaming at someone's not listening for?
They're not listening. They're just playing the same record over and over. Every time a new problem arises, they're just like, but this is what we're doing for you. We're like, oh, okay, just one more day, just two more days, just 10 more days.
Right.
It's
Every problem has solutions, and they bury it a bit, but they're there. So I'm
the solution, unfortunately, is slightly against the law now.
the law can't exist if it wasn't written for me.
Yeah.
It was written for some guy in a nice suit who gets his haircut way too much.
Yeah.
So I agree you shouldn't play by those rules. I'm playing by entirely different rules. Respect, like connection with people, service to people.
Yeah.
There has to be an exchange, right? And even I'm willing to look at that before in the past, like what those margins will look like, and how could you make it great for everybody? And I think that will drive business again, and that will create the next way of us doing things. It won't be easy, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But
do you think that there's going to be any type of loan forgiveness after all of this?
yeah, it's called bankruptcy.
Yeah, but with that being said, from what I'm hearing is that there is a pretty sizable class action lawsuit being built.
Yeah, I heard. Yeah.
That is probably going to end up with loan forgiveness. And I don't think a lot of businesses know this, but they should be probably applying for these loans because there's a possibility that you might not have to pay it back.
That's a great thing, and I think those are all important. For sure. I know you, just by the way you talk and the way we talk, you know how to do business in a very what's the word I'm looking for? fiat world, and you know how to do it in a way that allows you to make sure Mary and Thor are taken care of.
Yeah.
That's a rule of the game.
Yeah.
Right? If you don't understand corporate business and corporate law, or at least have someone on your team that does, then don't go into the space playing with corporates. They're going to run you over.
Yeah.
I think a lot of trouble sometimes comes when we personally guarantee things, or we take on too much on ourselves, not understanding there's another way of doing business. So to answer your question, if that class action lawsuit goes through and they forgive and they give me the sign of approval, great. If not, there's also bankruptcy.
Yep.
Donald Trump committed bankruptcy 22 times.
If you set your business up properly and you set up your leases properly, your bankruptcy wouldn't impact.
So this is what I'm saying we need to spend time on right now.
Yeah.
If you want to be in this business, again, maybe you own a space, maybe you don't, learn that.
Yeah.
Right? Call me, call John. Let's talk about that shit today.
Yeah.
If you want to be just, your own personal trainer and you want to work out of your house, that's great. Let's sit down and incorporate that and set yourself up to make sure that the next time these guys try to pull one over us, and they will, you're in a better position.
Yeah.
Because you do have to learn the rules of the game, right? So
I do think anyone in our industry who lives in at least a house should now start to slowly build a home gym.
For sure.
So when this happens again,
for sure,
they can continue.
For sure.
As opposed to being completely reliant on external facilities.
And the ones that have been just doing really great,
Rushing
right?
it.
And I think the other part too to that, and leads into what we talk about management, so many trainers now, if you're not thinking about yourself as a business, you have to start. I don't care if you don't like managing people. The funny thing I always hear about trainers is saying, I'll never do management because I don't like managing people. And it's like, this guy's an 18 client roster of all different, body types and age group. You're managing people right now.
For sure.
But the reason why I say that's very important is that great trainers are going to remain.
Yeah.
And they're going to be so busy that in order for them to keep the quality of service, they're going to need to have a network of good trainers, especially someone you can bring on yourself. So, it was always a sole proprietorship type mindset, and which is great. You want to have say in your business, but you want to have a bit of a team approach or expansion approach. Otherwise, you're going to be in the same problem you were a few years ago.
Yeah.
Hours for money, right?
Yeah.
So I think this is so exciting that we have an opportunity to look at all the ways we're doing this business. Unfortunately, COVID's made more clients because it's been very hard for some people to keep fit and eat well. So that they're going to need assistance. And it should make us a little sharper on how these guys are playing the game, at least with the guys that are foot on their neck. So
we should definitely play back.
We're going to be good.
Yeah.
And you have a son.
Yeah.
And I have another kid. How old are you now? 35? 36? Yeah. So you're very young. I just turned 39. I'm going to live to 120. Yeah. So fine. You got us. 2020, 2021.
You win.
You punched us in the cock.
Yeah.
Thank you. You got us. All right.
We got some time to catch up.
I'll be okay. I'll be ready for the next one. And I'll be ready for the next one. And eventually they'll die. And I swear to God, I know that our kids are going to fix this shit. I know they are.
Well, they better.
They have to.
Yeah. I'm trying to raise a real good kid. So
you have no problems there, my friend.
Yeah. So hopefully.
You have no problems. And I was saying this to a friend the other day. We were joking. I'm like, yeah, our kids are behind in the curriculum. The curriculum was shit. It was shit when we went to school.
It's one of the things that I'm okay with,
right?
with us being behind on, because it teaches us only to do one thing, and it's to be factory workers for
somebody else.
Yeah.
Right, and pay taxes. So now my kid had a whole year hanging around with me and my wife. Yeah. And then the greatest part was
he's learned a lot.
He's learned a ton. Yeah. And then my mother-in-law, she's my she comes over and watches my daughter every day. She's a former teacher. And she was into the arts.
That's perfect.
So my son is painting and he's doing watercolors and he's learning this whole other side of his brain that he wasn't going to get that from me, right? So, yeah, man, it's the pain, the anger, the distrust. Some days are heavy.
But
when
there
that
are
happens.
Benefits.
Yeah.
There are benefits if you find them.
And you just got to eat it. Like, a bad day's a bad day. Don't try to, will yourself out of it. Yeah. Just eat a burger, watch something, and get up and get back to it, right?
I've had one too many burgers.
Dude, fine, and it's the burger time.
Obviously it's been great to be able to literally spend every single day watching my kid grow up. You know what I mean?
Like, how would you get that before?
I wouldn't. I would probably see him a couple hours a day. Now it's literally 24/7, which can be too much, But I am obviously blessed with people who are supporting us and helping with that aspect. But obviously, I've been able to create a great connection with him otherwise because I'm always available and always there for him, right? if I'm downstairs and I hear a bang, all of a sudden crying, I can sprint up there and daddy's here, pick him up, and within seconds he's laughing again. Whereas like if it's a nanny or something like that, you know, he's gonna cry for like 30 minutes because they just don't have what I do, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's the part of that is going to help the future so much. He's gonna make all of his decisions based on what he does in his life, his career, where he lives, with that as his starting feeling.
Yeah.
Right? He doesn't have to learn that feeling. That's innate. So he'll know if he's in a job or a career that doesn't make him feel fullness, I'm out.
Yeah.
And that was happening already with our young people.
Almost too much.
A little too much for sure. And I think that was the part that people like us were a bit frustrated with.
Yeah.
But if you kind of see behind that, and it's very frustrating. I'm going to Bali tomorrow. I'm out. It's like, okay. Okay, cool. When are you leaving? Oh, I got to pack now. Okay, fine. Bye. Good luck. But the other part was like, they weren't going to put up with some of the crap that our generation did, and definitely the ones before us. Yeah. So, you know,
it's good and bad.
It's good and bad, and I think that's going to be interesting to see how they shape economies and societies with this time period of being so.
It's probably going to be a lot more innovation.
I feel there would be
a lot more self-start.
Yep.
And a lot less people willing to work for someone else. Yep. But there's always going to be those people that will work for someone else, and it's not necessarily because of a lack of education or because of a lack of opportunity, although there is that, but more so because not everyone has that mindset where they want to.
Right.
But also, we are kind of like, our perspectives are skewed, right? Because we live in Canada, we live in Toronto, where everyone is to a degree experiencing similar current events that are kind of leading the youth to having certain perspectives, right?
Right.
But there's other parts of the world where those kids are still literally developed from being an infant all the way up to their early 20s to be a worker for someone else.
Right.
And in a strong one. You know, China, for example.
Right.
They are creating billions every 20 years. Billion people enter their workforce like machines that are ready to go.
Yeah.
And to think about how powerful that makes a country's economy is
how enjoyable is it?
They are so far and beyond.
Yeah, but how enjoyable is it?
Well, because they were raised with a certain culture, that is something to be proud of, and that's something to work towards.
I hope so.
Yeah, I'm not talking from experience, right? Obviously, I haven't been able to.
I think there's a lot that you can focus somebody on when you ban them off from seeing everything else.
Yeah,
China doesn't allow them to see other parts of the world.
Yeah,
so.
but what I mean by that is, if you're taught your entire life that it is a point of integrity to work to the bone so that way your kids can have a good life, that might make parents happy, because
if ignorance is bliss, for sure.
But also because, like, I personally don't believe a job always should mean that you are reaching for the stars and accomplishing your dreams, and it's something you're always passionate about, because there's always going to be types of work, even when it's things that you love, that you don't like doing.
100%.
And those things have to get done, right?
Yeah.
And that's just the same thing in a greater quantity or volume, right? So what they're doing is they're living their life in the sense that there's the job, there's the stuff that you don't like doing but has to get done.
Which is honor in that.
Yeah, and then there's the stuff that you love, which is your family.
Right.
It's watching your kids grow, supporting them, supplying them with the ability to learn
and live. Yeah, no, for sure.
And so it really depends on your perspective, right?
But the perspective for me, which I again agree with, we don't disagree on anything. I think we have different perspectives. That then why are they so like restrictive on what they let their people see?
Well, it's not that they're restrictive, and again, I could be wrong here, but from what I have seen in the last maybe 5 years, is they have everything we do. It's just the Chinese version of it. Okay,
but messaging.
They have so they have something called WeChat, which is the largest messaging app in the world with the most people on it. Okay,
I had a trainer sell $45,000 worth of training off WeChat.
Yeah,
one post.
Yeah, so they've got that. Okay, which is like our WhatsApp, but it's so much larger. Or it's like their Facebook almost.
Right.
They've got their own YouTube. Okay, so you can't have YouTube in China. They've got their own version of everything, right? So there's that. So they do have access to content and all that stuff. It's just not anyone else's but their own. And we don't get access to theirs.
Right. So, I mean, look, I think either it's the, constriction or management of expression or freedom, or the illusion of it on our side of the world, because we have the illusion we can do whatever we want.
Yeah. Do we think that they're wrong because we think we are
100%,
right? You know what I
and
mean?
I think we're wrong.
Yeah.
And that's to me, that's a facet of the machine, because
And of course, there's going to be people in both categories, both countries, that think that their government is wrong and that they prefer.
100%, 100%. So I just think that these are just natural functions of, we can't have our way of living without China.
Mm-hmm.
We can't have our way of living without Africa. That's what people really miss, because if you don't, everyone says things like, let's we got to reduce carbon footprint, electric cars and low emissions, and even our phones. And nobody wants to deal with the fact that, in the Delta Congo, they're killing people and enslaving them right now so they can mine cobalt for all of our stuff.
Yeah.
We actually don't even want to talk about that stuff.
No, we don't.
We don't want to talk about how that stuff goes to China for manufacturing in a very structured culture that's just pumping out garbage and sending it over here, and we're overpaying for it.
Yeah.
We don't really want to talk about these things. So all those functions don't exist without the other one.
Yeah.
And each one has to be sold some sort of bullshit.
Yeah.
Right? But I do believe that, like you mentioned, going back to what our kids will do and what the economy and stuff will look like, I think they're going to be looking towards their community more. Because my daughter right now only knows 2 streets and one other kid lives across the street. Hopefully that will expand. But I think she's going to be more engaged in our community, because that's where we're going to be kind of pushed into.
Yeah.
So now maybe we go back to the time when, our tribes asked people, what do you need? What do you want? And then those tribes people connected with other tribes people, honor integrity, and talked about, okay, how can we share or make things happen? And then that eventually kind of goes a little further from there. And that's wishful thinking. But this took our eyes off of COVID, and the lockdowns took our eyes off of a little bit of what it's like when the system really doesn't work.
Yeah.
And the reality is, it hasn't worked for a very long time.
Yeah, it's
outdated. And it's in almost every part of the globe.
Yeah.
So we incrementally have to start accepting that.
Yeah.
And I think it's good we started with ourselves, right?
True.
If we decide to make changes after this.
But that's why I like this digital currency. I like the internet. I like the freedoms of being able to a degree, live in an environment where there is so much less control.
It's a good start. It's a great start. Money is always a good place to start.
Yeah, but of course, with less control comes the risk of being taken advantage of.
Of course.
But again, the type of being taken advantage of that might come from there is really your own fault. Not because there's someone that already has control over you.
Right.
And at any moment they can take advantage.
Right.
So it's like, what kind of wall would you prefer running into?
Right.
The wall that already exists, or the wall that is there because you went left when you should have went right?
Right. And has a chance of correction.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
I agree.
So in my opinion, there are ways out of this.
Yep.
It's just people need to start working on that.
Yeah.
It's
internal.
And even going back to what you said previously about, time for money.
Yep.
It's not necessarily the best way to spend your time, but it's necessary.
Right.
And people say you can't make time, but you can make money. And I agree. But what you can do is you can expand how your time is valued.
Right.
So, I think people that are young should be working their bones off.
Right.
Because what happens is every dollar you do make, you can invest.
Right.
And that money, all of a sudden, instead of becoming $1 you earned $1.25. Instead of it becoming $10 you earned, it becomes $20. You know what I mean? And before you know it, in 15 to 20 years, you have $1 million in the bank.
Right.
And then you can do whatever you want. You can invest into a business. You can invest into greater investments and start your own real estate corporation where you have multiple properties, right? There are ways for the young to put in that work, and
if they resonate with it,
for sure,
you have to resonate with the end goal.
Yeah.
Right. And what I've learned working with first of all, we're in a very blessed position that we get so much inputs. We get inputs from clients at so many different levels and parts of their career path. Then an esteemed pleasure to talk to people way younger.
Yeah.
Because there's no way I'd be around this many 20-year-olds. I'm not a rapper. I'm not an athlete. Like, I'm not cool, right?
Yeah.
So I'm almost 40. 20-year-olds don't hang out with 40-year-olds.
Yeah.
But because we work in fitness, we have all these young people, and they're at the stage of life we're gone from, but we remember. And one thing I learned is, like, when the end goal changes, what you just mentioned there is exactly what I want and exactly what I've been working to. But I remember that being the end goal from when I was very young.
It wasn't for me.
Was it? No.
Developing a business was.
Yeah.
But understanding how to use the money that I earned.
But that's a business.
For sure. But you know, there's a skill set that I have that allows me to have a business.
Right.
But then there was a lack of skill in knowing how to take the profits from that business and grow them.
Fine. Look, the color and the description is going to change, but as long as I've known you, you've always enjoyed learning something.
For sure.
Taking education and learning something. You'd spend thousands of dollars on your education and fitness. You dove into every course you took. You went to Sweden, all over the world. Like, so, fine. Now it's not a front foot elevated squat. Now it's Bitcoin. You're always going to learn something. That's you, and that's just who you are. And I think what's a little different of that is that you were able to tie that to a very good end goal. Mm-hmm. And even though that end goal will probably change, you always know you can use that and just keep putting it into something new.
Sure.
I don't know if young people think exactly like that, but they're more wanting to make sure that it's not that their investment doesn't want to pay off later. They know it's going to pay off later, and they want to enjoy it now.
Yeah.
And I think that's really important because we never tried it that way.
Yeah.
We tried work hard, enjoy it later, which works really well. But have you ever tried enjoy it now and enjoy it later?
For sure. I mean, I could definitely say that I've enjoyed a bit too much.
No, I don't think
which is why.
No, I think that's the perfect example. It's not a but, it's an and.
Yeah.
Right? Can I enjoy it and be successful? And you also said, which is right on point, that it's not going to be like that all the time. There's parts you don't like or are not going to be always enjoyable. Yeah. But, you know, what do we give up, going back to what you're talking about with some other cultures, what do you give up when it is just duty?
Yeah.
Or it's just process? Yeah. And then the process one day will pay. What are you giving up in interim? Was that your best day? Yeah. When you knew that the money you're making today was for 40 years from now? Did that really fire you up? Yeah. Or was it something short term that could have been like, let's go to Bali?
For sure. I agree.
But that's why they're interesting, because it's a different mindset, but they're so willing to learn because they're scared. They're terrified. Young people are terrified, whether they admit it or not. Because before, at least, we were like, you know, get a home.
And now so much of that is unrealistic.
Or just not, is it even cool anymore? Yeah. It's almost like if you did that, you kind of be like, oh, she just got a career and had some kids and got a home. Stuck, right? So it's like, that is scary, because they also are starting to get the other effect where, you know, the independent entrepreneur, freelancer, blogger was hard because COVID just went boom. Yeah. I have a really great perspective. My wife's two bridesmaids, who are her best friends, are professional bloggers. Okay. And
bloggers or vloggers?
Bloggers.
Okay.
It's fashion, lifestyle, food, and they all Fortune 500 brands. Like, they do this for a living. They do it very well. But I know how hard they work versus people who are trying to do it. Yeah. And I know how long they've been working for. Yeah.
No one ever really knows what went behind into it. Yeah.
It's the same thing as if someone was, you know, running any other 100-hour-a-week business. It's freaking hard work. Yeah. So I think a lot of people who maybe their solo businesses were just kind of floating, like young people, I mean, they're dealing with the reality that, oh, maybe I can't be a blogger for the rest of my life. Yeah. And maybe I'm too late to go back to law school and be a lawyer, because all my friends that did that, they're 4 years out the gate. Yeah. That's where I think you and I can really make a huge difference, because we took on the old world of our parents' teaching. Mm-hmm. Like, you bought a home very early. Yeah. I bought a home at 20. Because to me, that was like, if you're going to work, make sure you're owning your property at night, or at least owning your mortgage. Yeah. But when I was still working in my Good Life, my last job, the last like 3-4 years, there was no flipping talk of that. Mm-hmm. There was no even like, why would I want a condo? Yeah. Right? So I think we have a chance to give a little bit of that game that creates some structure, but the same thing too, they can leapfrog and still be creative and be like go start a Facebook.
And still nurture it and allow them to innovate. And
but the point I'm making here specifically, they're getting the whole you can do anything.
Yeah.
That's inundated. What they're not getting is the
structure.
The structure and not from their parents. Parents too old. It's the guys like us that are like, look,
you're going to screw yourself over in 10 years if this is all you do.
You need to just kind of, I'm not
save a little bit of money.
Save a little bit.
Invest a little bit,
right? If you're going to pay $2,200 for a townhouse, a rental, let's think about maybe buying something, right?
It's funny because I, just 2 or 3 weeks ago, had a call with my team. I wanted to offer them a 1-hour conversation where I taught them a little bit about investing their money. And I taught them a little bit about how to manage their money better, a little bit more about wealth management. And I taught them about TFSAs and RSPs and how to set themselves up for buying a home or retirement long term, like how to set goals financially and how to even look at things like cryptocurrencies and stuff like that. Because I know that so many of them don't have that information because people that they perhaps grew up with didn't have that information either, right? And, I was lucky that my father was, an accountant.
Right.
So no better person to teach me about this stuff than him.
Right.
Although I'm going to be honest, he didn't teach me much.
Right.
Because he just did everything for me.
He just did it, right.
But I, over the last 6 months, have hyper and obsessively focused on learning more about this stuff because once I took that hit with the business because of these lockdowns, I realized, okay, I need to diversify like crazy, which I've done, you know, and we're continuing to do forever now.
Right.
But what I've learned from it, I was like, wow, there's a lot of power to be had and grabbed once you learn more about how to manage your money intelligently.
Right.
And so I wanted to share that information with them because my team, they range from early 20s to mid 30s.
Right.
Some of them know some of this information. Some of them know none of it.
Most probably don't.
Blown away.
Yeah.
And I think that it's definitely a disservice that this is not taught in school.
It's not going to be. It's not supposed to be, though,
Well,
right? It's not their business.
I heard that they are going to start teaching.
They're not going to teach it.
What I heard is that they've already started. In grade 1, they start teaching about taxes.
In private schools.
I don't know if it's private schools.
Definitely not public schools. No.
They really should.
No, they won't. Because at the end of the day, you would do things that are going to do well for your business.
Yeah.
That doesn't do well for their business when people don't know about taxes. Like the less people know, the better it is for their business. And that goes back to what we said about that's cool the way you want to do business. I just don't necessarily have to do business with you.
Yeah.
So my son goes to school for many of the attributes that school gives, but for the part of like personal finances and like how we should be thinking, that's not their job. That's not their business.
Yeah.
So I look forward to learning stuff that you're learning from you, because that doesn't only give me the ability to dialogue. See, what you created with your team was the ability to have let me choose my words wisely. What you created in that 1 hour was the opportunity to have a safe conversation so they can be vulnerable. Mm-hmm. Because they know they're hearing that stuff. It's buzzing around them. It's popping up on their feeds. Someone's second cousin made some money in Bitcoin, and they're wondering about it, but they're intimidated.
Yeah.
And we're all intimidated, but trainers are really intimidated. And we don't always give that credit because they look so strong. So now what you did is you made a reference point, a reality point that you can talk to. They're still going to go get their own resources. They're still going to go find their own people, but you made the conversation safe and comfortable.
Yeah.
And I think that's the most important thing is like,
they should be comfortable having this type of conversation.
They won't be, but they need someone to always be in that space.
For sure.
And I think that's one thing with running our trainers or working with our trainers at RFI is like we try to put them in front of someone that can talk to them about not legal advice.
Yeah.
It's still case by case.
Yeah.
We talk to them about what it's like to be a contractor, and that's something we have a whole series that comes up. Like, what do you have to do in terms of your taxes and some things you should know? And then, eventually I'd love to get to the point where we can say, look, today we're talking to John, and he's going to give us our insight, transitioning from the fitness business to putting money into all these other diversified, vehicles. And then, let them just go from there. Yeah. And that's what makes me excited for the next 10 years of work.
Yeah, I agree. And I think, that's a good point to kind of like wrap up. But I think that it is important for people like us who are industry leaders to teach the next generation that you don't have to just obsessively focus on one craft. You should definitely have a skill set that protects you and allows you to benefit from your time that you're putting in long term. Because if you're going to put in that time and you're going to work hard to become amazing, you should be rewarded amazingly.
Right.
And
the system's not going to do that for you.
It 100% will not.
Not do that for you, which is just fine.
Yeah.
Sounds supposed to.
And we should be able to open up these types of conversations and communications with our people and giving them the ability to know that it's okay to look larger and to have a big dream and know that it is possible. It just takes time.
Right.
And I say to people all the time, you know, I know you want it tomorrow, but time's going to pass no matter what. So you might as well be working towards a goal.
100%.
And then once, and if you get there early, good.
Good for you.
Good,
yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. So I really am very thankful that you came on today. I think it was a great chat, and we definitely had a lot to say, and we definitely still have a lot more.
Yeah.
to say. So
invite me back, man. Schedule me in.
We should have you come back.
No, thanks, Sean. It was awesome, dude.
Yeah, buddy.
Yeah.
So if you enjoyed that, please make sure that you smash the like button. Make sure you give us a subscribe actually. Turn the notification bell on and leave a comment below and let us know what you want to hear us talk about next. So yeah, thanks. Peace.